this is Chelsea. I'm here with Georgette Angelos. She is the executive producer of G2C Productions. We're here today for the first ever episode of Girls Gone Wireless. So, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I mean, thank you for letting me just hop into this little oasis that we have here. So, we're at your mom's house, right?
Yes, at
okay.
my mom's house.
Very nice. And we've got a little guest here, but you know, she might be making an appearance at some point. Little baby is going to be chilling. This is Penelope, and maybe we'll bring her on, maybe not, but she's definitely going to be getting my eye every now and then because she's freaking adorable.
She's my co-producer.
Is she?
Yes.
Yeah, she's going to be a great addition to the team for sure. So, I mean, the greatest thing about this is I was thinking, like, it would just be totally cool to just be like, okay, just dive in, like, I don't really know anything that you've been up to. More or less, like, give me some cliff notes or something. I know that you worked with Snoop Dogg. So, like, that was probably really cool for you.
It was.
Maybe tell me about your start from Fort Pierce area, Treasure Coast area, all the way to Cali. How did that transition work out?
Yeah, definitely. It was one of those things where, you know, I was going to school in Tallahassee. I was doing the normal run-of-the-mill, high school, college, graduate, figure out what I want to do, and I was working for the governor of the state at the time, Governor Frist, and as soon as my tenure with him was over, I said, it's time for me to go. And I decided that politics was not my thing, and becoming an attorney, which I was aspiring to do at the time, was not the thing to do, and I moved to California. But within my first 2 weeks of being in LA, I was at I did my move to LA. I was 19, and within my first 2 weeks, I was at a party in Beverly Hills and had met John Phillips, who discovered Sublime. So I didn't own a camera. I didn't know anything about photography. I just loved music. Like, music was my thing. I wanted to go out and be a concert photographer, and I guess it was those rock and roll dreams, you know, like the 60s, and that I thrived through my parents.
Obviously, like, if you were to step inside of here and see all the memorabilia and different little collector's items, you would be taken away like I was. I've never personally been here. I walk in and I'm like seeing Beatles up on the wall. I'm seeing this and this. I'm just like, all right, I'm in a cool spot right now.
Yeah.
So definitely see that you have cool parents.
For sure, yeah. It was like from, you know, the Allman Brothers to the Beatles to the Doors to whatever, and all that is very LA.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were talking outside, and he was like, what did you move here to do? And I said, I moved here to be a music photographer, not knowing at all who he was. Like, zero clue who he was at all. We didn't even exchange names at that point. And, and he goes, oh, you know, this is what I do. I own this management label, Silverback. Why don't you come and shoot for us? And they managed Slightly Stupid and Revolution and everyone like that. So I got started that week, and I went out and bought a camera and learned how to use it.
Where does this happen,
and learned how to use it. And I shot Revolution that next week, and then it was Slightly Stupid, who was like my first concert when I was...
My first concert, like in Jack's when I was going to Flagler.
Yeah, like my parents took me to go see The Who and stuff like that, but it was my first concert by myself. You know, I was 15 and... Anyway, so just let the good times roll. It was kind of like off to the races after that.
Yeah.
And I got hired on to do behind the scenes for a music video. And that music video producer really loved me. He's one of my very close friends still. His name is Roger Ubina. And he's like, I really like your hustle. I really like your vibe. Why don't you work on this music video with me next week?
Right.
But as a production assistant. And that was it. It was kind of like, that's all she wrote after that. Because I started working for every single department, from art department to locations to, you know, director's assistant to whatever it was. And I just really took to producing and followed producers around for years and slowly but surely became one.
Wow.
Yeah. So the Snoop thing.
How'd you do this? It's incredible.
I love you. The Snoop thing happened. Because again, it was just like the hustling. And another good friend of mine who's a producer, he produces everything with Kevin Costner. He brought me on to do Mary Jane, which was a concept then, and that was Snoop's media company, Snoop Dogg's media company. And was kind of doing pro bono work for them, and just was like really
Yeah, that's a good question there. Like, how was the payment for all this stuff? Was it like a lot of trade and like being an apprentice type thing, or?
Definitely. I mean, on the bigger sets where they had the budget. But you know, when you're at the helm of something great like Mary Jane was, and it's fueled by, it's like how it doesn't get much more West Coast than working for a cannabis media company. That Snoop Dogg,
like
and
the biggest OG
that Snoop started.
Damn.
Okay. Yeah, so it was really incredible, and I was just like, something feels really right here. Something feels really right, and funny enough, I had worked on the California Roll music video like 2 weeks before that, and that was Snoop Dogg, Pharrell, and Stevie Wonder.
Wow.
And I had this really cool moment with Snoop. And he called me over in the middle of the crowd and was just like, come over here, you know, because I was like, you know, kind of waving at him or whatever, and like had a funny exchange. And he just had me work with him the entire rest of the day.
Wow.
So I like became his assistant that day, you know, his production assistant that day, which is kind of unheard of on a set, you know, and everyone's kind of like looking at me all cockeyed, like, you're not supposed to be doing that. But I was like, I don't care if I ever work with these people again. I'm working with Snoop right now. So,
exactly.
And I called my sister that day. I was like, I don't think this is going to be the end. You know, I feel like I'm going to see him again. And sure thing. I was going to say sure as shit. Sure thing. I got a phone call from my friend Erin the next, 2 weeks later. That was like, hey, I'm being brought on to do Snoop Dogg's media company. Do you want to come and help me produce it?
Right.
And I did, and it was awesome. And I was hoping I was going to get hired. I was like, please, like, hire me as the associate producer. And the phone call I got was Aaron and the other EP, Ian, got moved on to different positions outside of Mary Jane. They weren't working with Mary Jane anymore. So I was next in line to be
wait, I thought this was going the other way.
No.
Okay.
So I was next in line to be the head of production of the company. At 24 years old. So it was like, kind of like shit or get off the pot. Like, it was like, this is what you wanted. I was leaving for Tokyo the next day. They called me and they were like, can you start this week? I said, I'm leaving for Tokyo tomorrow. I can be there next week, full blown. And yeah, that's how it started. I was the head of production of Mary Jane for 2 years.
And all of this just like self-made, just working your way in there. I'm just fascinated. I feel like, I've known you for over 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So we went to high school together, everybody.
Yes.
Really crazy, right? But, I've always thought of you of having definitely the gift of gab, knowing how to carry yourself. That is some unimaginable luck and whatever determination and drive that you just forged through all of that, especially a woman in the industry.
Thank you.
We have to mention that too. Unfortunately, we do.
Yeah.
But people like you paving that and really taking the initiative. I don't know.
Thank you.
Fascinating.
Thanks.
Seriously. So I'm curious. So let's think about that. So you're with Mary Jane 2014 to 16, 17?
Yeah, just about.
Okay.
2016.
Right. So that's is that when Little Dicky came on the scene?
Yeah, Lil Dicky was there. I mean,
he was in that cartoon. Snoop was in that feature with him.
Yeah.
The song, and I was thinking that might be about the same timeline.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I mean, because under the Mary Jane umbrella, it was Snoop's talk show GGN, which was on Revolt TV, and then it got picked up by Apple.
Okay.
During my time there. So I mean, we had from Lil Dicky to Khloe Kardashian, the whole Kardashian crew showed up. It was just all walks of life. And that was the really cool thing with working with Snoop, is he's such a mogul that it wasn't set to one demographic or one scene. It was everyone just loves him and wanted to be a part of it. So it couldn't have been, it was a young producer's dream. And of course, just how we mentioned, it is ashamed to have to say, yes, as a female, but as a young female, I was really, really having to prove myself in this scenario. And of course, it was very, very hush, very hush hush. If I had a problem, I wasn't discussing it with anybody. I was very much taking care of it internally, and very much okay, if I complain,
you can't let that guard down whatsoever.
No, if I say something, then I'm weak, and someone else could do it better.
Oh,
you know
no,
what
no,
I mean?
No, no, no.
And I was not going to let that happen. So it was really ideal. But yeah, it was like Lil Dicky and everybody like that. So it was
Interesting.
fun.
Okay, yeah, I just mentioned that because like that silly cartoon. I know that Snoop was featured in the song. I can't remember it, but so okay, take me back a couple steps here. So like when you first got out to California, were you just there like you moved out there by yourself solely, or did you like meet up with your sister?
I moved out there by myself. You're really gonna enjoy this story.
Yeah,
it comes full circle. It was
okay.
This is stars aligning. Stars
Okay.
aligning always. I mean, it's like, let me just say this to our people: if you build it, they will come. Like that
for
is
sure.
the ongoing
For sure.
theme of life, right? Is if you believe it's gonna happen and you manifest it, it will happen.
Mhm.
All in due time for what the universe has in
Yep.
store for you. So yeah, I moved out and I was living in this house in the hills with these 4 guys that I had met while I was vacationing there.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, like, you know, it was like, oh, cool, let's come up to this house in the hills, da da da,
Wow.
and hit it off with these guys. And they were like, yeah, if you want to move out here, you can live here. And I don't think that they thought I was going to take them up on it, but I did.
Oh yeah,
And
I would have.
the day we were moving out, I found this manila envelope filled with photos. I mean, it was like we were throwing everything in the house away. It was
Okay.
like throwing everything out. There was a dumpster downstairs. It was
Okay.
just like all of our
It's
stuff
like
was
the
already into
purge
our new
of the bachelor
apartments.
pad.
And the purge of the bachelor pad was exactly right. They were like, I was just there as a helping hand. All my stuff was already in my new apartment.
Ah, okay, gotcha.
And
gotcha.
I found this manila envelope filled with photos and this journal, and like covered in dust. It was like a total movie. You know what I mean? It was like a total movie scenario.
Right.
And I start going through the photos, and it's Johnny Depp, Johnny Depp, Johnny Depp, Iggy Pop, Marilyn Manson. I mean, everybody is in these photos. But then there was one resonating character that was like covered in tattoos, super cool, kind of like gritty looking guy. So, I mean, it was just wild. So I yelled down to my roommate, Corolla, shout out Corolla, love you. And I was like, whose photos are these? They all have Johnny Depp in them. And he's like, who gives a shit? Throw them away.
No.
Like, if they're here, they're not ours. No one cares. Throw them away.
Oh, okay, okay.
And I was like, that's 1,000% not happening.
No.
So I took them and I was looking through the journal for like a couple months, you know, like was reading these pages and Johnny's popping up in the pages and all this other stuff. And finally there was a John Hancock at the bottom of one of the pages. And it said Alessandra De Benedetti. Thank God Facebook was a thing then.
Right.
10 years ago. Facebook was still kind of flourishing, and I found Alessandra and contacted her and said, hey, I lived in this house in the hills in Mount Olympus and whatever. And I mean, within 15 minutes, this girl calls me and says, that's my journal.
Oh.
That's my journal. I lived in that house.
Oh.
I got in a fight with my boyfriend. I moved out. I left some of my stuff, whatever. And then I said, well, I found like 75 photos of whatever.
You probably want these.
Yeah, and she would just like send me back the journal, send me back the photos. I was like, I'll send you back the journal, but I'm not sending back the photos.
You need to have some leverage here.
Because, well, the reason being was because they were her bosses. And I said, where's your boss?
IP.
And she said, that's the guy who's in all the photos, blah, blah, blah. He still lives in Hollywood if you want to get in contact with him to return the photos to him, which I did.
I see.
And we ended up, so I wrote this guy.
Right.
I wrote this guy and was like, hey, I found these photos. You know, I'm a photographer. I'm you know, I understand like how momentous these occasions are.
Yeah.
It's not anyone. I mean, I'm broke. I'm 20. I don't have a job. Like, I have a job, but like not anything that's lucrative, obviously.
Right.
And but I just want to give these back to you. You know, I could have sold them. I could have done whatever. And then mom life. So yeah. And his name was Jonathan Shaw, and he was Johnny Depp's best friend and tattoo artist. So he's like, I'll meet you off Melrose, right? And we meet for coffee.
Not shady or anything.
Last day I ever went to college, people. Last day.
Okay.
I was going into my midterm, and it was like this ultimatum, like, meet me off Melrose in an hour. And I said, I'm walking into a midterm. He's like, I don't give a shit.
Oh.
Like, I'm leaving for Brazil. You have to meet me, like, now or never.
Okay.
So I said, I mean, like, literally my hand was on the door. And I was like, this is it. And I called my parents. You know, I'm 19 years old. And I called my parents. I said, I'm not going to college anymore. I'm not going to college anymore. Something is happening right now that I can't explain, but it's going down. So I met up with Jonathan. And
they were just totally okay with it. They trusted
were,
your gut,
but they also
or-
were 3,000 miles away. So, it was like,
yeah, okay. So basically, we decided.
Yeah, it was a decision. And and yeah, and I gave back the photos, and he's going through them, going, "I'm gonna kill her. I'm gonna kill her. I'm gonna kill her," because like these are all photos that like are worth like 20,000.
Oh, that she
upwards.
had like napped basically.
No, she had them for him,
Okay.
but she just lost it in the
Of the
shuffle of
best
her own
intentions.
personal life. Yeah,
I got
exactly.
you. I got you.
And Alessandra's the coolest. I mean, her and I are like still friends on Facebook. We just like had a bunch of laughs like multiple times throughout the
I
years,
bet.
like talking about this. But yeah, he goes, "Well, what do you want? What do you want for them?" And I said nothing. I said I just wanted to return them. I wanted to give them back to their owner. And we sat there and talked. He gave me like kind of the spiel on like, you know, what his whole deal was. And he goes, "I live in a penthouse. I'm leaving for Brazil in a week. Do you want to watch it for me? Or do you want to watch my penthouse?"
How the hell are these things happening? Are we realizing that everything that's been going on seems like it's been orchestrated from the gods? Like,
right?
I don't understand this.
Well, it's a character that we'll touch down on in this conversation, but from someone that we will be discussing later. It's the gods of chaos. One more once, just kept coming to me and kept having these things happen. So it was like really wild, and you know, you can feel it. Like if you're really in touch with that 6th, 7th, 8th sense that's like surrounding us at all points in time, you know when, you know what I mean. You know when to listen to it and kind of like when to sack up and just go for it. So
absolutely.
He goes, "Do you want to move in my penthouse and watch it for you know, for the next 6 months? I'll be gone in Brazil."
Right.
And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And I followed him on his motorcycle, like down this like bat cave of like it was like the oldest, tallest building in Hollywood.
Okay.
And we go up to the penthouse, and it's this gorgeous apartment, this gorgeous, you know, whatever. It's like the whole 14th floor of this place. And he goes, "This is gonna be your room. This was Johnny's old room." So I'm like this. I'm 19, you know, about to be 20 years old. I just returned these photos. I did the right thing. Now I'm living in Johnny Depp's old room. I've only been in LA for a month, and this is all kind of happening.
This is insane.
Yeah. Of course, I will say this. I don't, you know, depending on whoever watched this, I was not the most responsible person in that apartment because it was like, hell broke loose once I was there. But it was clean. I kept it together, but I was not supposed to have parties, and I did.
I mean, come on. Everything that happened, she's had every fucking green light imaginable.
I did the right thing, right? I played my cards right.
I think so. I think it's warranted.
Yes. But I did party in that apartment. There might be someone along the lines who would be like, I went to that apartment.
Oh, really?
I did. Yeah,
really?
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of how that happened. And then everything else that the bullet points of Silverback management to all the sets that I worked on.
Right.
So that all kind of fell into place after that.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
So you went like let me think. Did like 2010 then? 2011?
Yep.
That was your start?
Yeah, 2010.
Okay, gotcha. I was still grinding it out in school, but you know.
I should have been.
Nah.
Could have been.
Look at this. I think that you've done way more than an undergrad program could have done for you in that amount of time. That's just unimaginable. So, all right, take me through like one. I want pretty much everything's already been a wild card story, but I want something totally like off the hinge that you're just like, Chelsea, you won't believe this fucking happened to me.
Yeah. I mean, the penthouse story was pretty wild. You know, the whole Stoop situation was pretty wild. I was like really thrown for a loop because obviously, I mean, it was. I will say this: my mother. Thank you, God, for my mom. She was just like, you can't say no. You know, you can't say no, and that's kind of been like the vibe this whole time. I mean, I would say, you know, it's like during that same time period, I took my dad to Kevin Costner's house and like partied there, and like when we were sitting there, you know, smoking a joint with Kevin Costner and spinning Sade on a record, you're like, well, this pretty much sums it up. I mean, this is pretty much all.
This is pretty much the Catalina fucking wine mixer.
Yeah, it was the Catalina fucking wine mixer. That's pretty much what it was.
Okay. Okay.
So those were just good times. I mean, you just like party with the best of them. You're like kind of rolling around Hollywood. I mean, you move there, LA, and Hollywood is not what it used to be. And
Right.
I'm using this platform to say that. Johnny Depp said it in an interview one time, and I really loved him for that. I'm my lover. And I'll say that. I think it was when he did an interview with either GQ or Rolling Stone. It said Hollywood doesn't take chances anymore. We're also in this bubble of, you know, and don't get me wrong, I'm all about the political correctness. I'm not trying to offend.
Bring it.
But the stuff that, you know, the wheelhouse of stuff that that I just like mentioned, it's like that's what LA's about. That's what Hollywood's about, and New York,
Opportunities.
you know, opportunities and taking chances and being artists and building with each other and being honest and driven. Now it's just like so cutthroat, and everyone's just like ready to just, how can you help me? You know what I mean? And
where's your value?
Yeah. Oh, the amount
How
of
can
people.
I use you, basically?
Totally. And I mean, the amount of people that have asked me for something before something even happened. Well, what am I going to get out of this? We haven't even talked. Yeah. I mean, there hasn't even been
It's like
happened.
a transaction with those people.
Totally.
It's not even like any human connectivity or doing something together. It's kind of weird.
And they don't understand. They don't understand how debilitating that is to the process. To the true artists and the true artistry behind what has made, you know, some of the best films of all time, some of the best music of all time. And that's why everything's, you know, it's like you just see everyone kind of like fighting for themselves. It's like, what musician right now isn't like wanting to represent themselves? Whatever, because like they should have agents, they should have managers, they should have people, they shouldn't be thinking, they should just be creating.
Right.
But the business is just like cutthroat now.
Really, yeah.
And it's a huge
More
bummer.
so than ever.
More so than ever, yeah.
Right.
But luckily, I think that if you do everything with really good intentions and you do everything kind of with that dreamer mentality, it will come full circle, and it does. And it's continued to do that for me. Even now, living, you know, here with my babe and being with Penelope, it's like she's my inspiration, she's my muse, and
Absolutely.
and that's what life's about.
Those baby blues, I would be
entranced
as well.
I mean,
I was gonna let you bring it up.
yeah, covering a Canvas conference in, yes, I said